Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Caravan of Garbage, where we're looking at The Thing.
Whoa.
1982.
Whoa.
There's a couple of them. Well, there's three. Okay, please leave a like on this video.
And we'll tell you which three they are.
That's right.
But if you don't know, Dice.
No.
Oh, all right. We'll tell you what three there are.
We're going to tell you.
You're going to tell you.
So for this also, I watched the original. It's called The Thing from Another World. It's based off a short novella.
But we don't talk about those here. Yuck. Not even novellas.
Well,
not even a novelette.
I'm making
not even a short story.
That's true. But I am currently picking my way through it. I want to talk about it more next week.
People who can't see us, obviously, James made a gesture, which I think he thinks means looking through a book, but it was more like doing some sort of like cat's cradle knitting thing with his hands.
That's how I read.
I don't think you've picked up a book in your life.
I don't need to.
Okay.
Not when you've figured everything out.
All right.
I'm fascinated by like the metamorphosis kind of qualities and like the origin of the thing. And not that I want an explanation, but I like just looking at all the clues.
I kind of want an explanation.
Sure. Well, we can get into that.
We'll give it a whirl later. We'll fix it.
Yeah, we'll fix it.
We'll solve the mystery.
It's broken and we'll fix it.
Yeah, that's right.
So The Thing from Another World, it's from the 50s. It's very similar in structure to this. So there's a ship discovered in the ice. They bring home a monster. They light it on fire a bunch.
I was going to say, all I remember from that movie is a lot of stuff gets lit on fire.
Yeah, there's one particular sequence where the monster like crashes into the room and they just throw kerosene on it. And it's obviously like a real man.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It was a real man.
Yeah, I mean, yes. So in that, unlike the original story, it doesn't imitate. It's like a big Frankenstein kind of thing.
Sure.
And so the movie...
I think you'll find it's like a big Frankenstein's monster.
No, because Frankenstein's monster could also be called Frankenstein because he's technically the son of Frankenstein.
I never
They're
thought
both
about it like
Frankensteins.
that. Wow.
Yeah. And you're going to jail for being a pedantic son of a bitch.
I call him Frankenstein all the time. I call the doctor Frankenstein's dad.
Why?
Just feel like it.
You're allowed to do that, I guess.
I'm mucking around with the format.
Is this your legal case to get out of going to jail?
That's correct.
I don't know if there's any precedent for any of this.
Well, come on, I've got a family. I call the doctor Frankenstein's dad. Come on, man. Come on, man, Your Honor.
So the thing is...
Well, the thing is...
that's probably going to happen a lot. Please, pull me up every time.
Okay, folks, stuff that's going to happen a lot, we're going to say that. And most of this video is just going to be us saying things in the movie that we thought were cool.
Absolutely. So that original movie, I like it. I don't love it. It's a lot of men standing around a room being like, I'm pretty sure the thing's going to crash into this room. And then every now and then he does.
But how are we going to spot it? Well, it's really big and it looks like a Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's a big Frankenstein man. So just every probably 20 or so minutes it goes, bah! It just like crashes into a room and they throw kerosene on it or whatever.
Sure.
It's pretty great.
They get a different guy. Yeah. They get the next guy in line and they dump kerosene on him.
Exactly. But watching this again, and I've seen it, I have no idea how many times. This is the best movie ever made. It's so good.
Now, it didn't do well
No.
financially. Is that because, was it up against some stiff competition at the time?
So there's a number of reasons behind it. It reviewed terribly.
Sure.
People were like, the special effects are great, but it's gross.
Sure.
Nothing like this had been made before.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it, but Rob Bottin, who put this together, like a lot of the concepts and also brought them to life. It's amazing. It looks incredible, but people hated that. The other thing is it came out the same week as Blade Runner. So they bombed together.
That's right,
And 2 weeks earlier or something like that, E.T. came out. So people were like, we love friendly aliens.
Yeah.
And it's like, you like friendly aliens? Here's the worst thing that could ever happen.
That's right. This thing would eat E.T.
Absolutely.
Immediately. And then turn into an E.T., but a real wrong one. You
Yeah.
know? A real crook E.T.
Something would burst out of its chest or whatever, etc. Yeah, E.T. would try to heal with its heart and the thing would just tear through it.
Yeah.
God, it'd be incredible, Mason. John Carpenter also, who directed this, he of course directed the original Halloween. He of course directed Ghosts of Mars. He said it's his favorite movie.
That's his holy trinity, those three.
That's right, yeah. And the storytelling this is incredible, and I don't think it's necessarily intentional, but the writers have acknowledged this, that like, yeah, it is like an allegory for like the AIDS epidemic. You know, you could be infected, but you don't necessarily know.
Yeah,
Or you look fine until you're not.
Yeah, until a big hole opens up in your chest and it becomes teeth.
Teeth,
and
exactly.
it bites a man's hands
Bites
off.
a man's hands off. I love the idea of this, that some people believe, and people who made this movie, some of the actors, like, you don't even know whether you are infected
Sure.
until, like, I don't know, like something triggers inside of you. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And I think it's also interesting for the idea of the thing where the thing might have you running around in a building, like chasing it, while it's infected Wilford Brimley and he's quietly building a spaceship somewhere else.
Sure, yeah.
So it's got kind of, there's elements of like distraction and deception to this, which might not even be intentional, or they are, that I love.
Do we know for sure, is the thing a hive mind? Are they separate entities? Is there ever been any confirmation from the filmmakers or the actors, or?
It seems to have, like, I mean, it's obviously got a sense of preservation, but they say in this, at the very least, that each cell is like an individual kind of
guy,
essentially.
They're all different guys.
Yeah, but do they have like a collective consciousness and understanding? I don't know. I don't really know. And because it also, like, some of the things it changes into or semi-changes into are clearly things it's morphed into from other worlds.
That's
as
true,
well.
like alien guys.
Yeah, it's got this whole like genetic memory that it carries with us.
Yeah, it can be a dog guy.
Yeah.
Or a man guy.
Could be a dog again.
Could be a Norwegian.
Could be a Norwegian
For all
guy.
we know, you know.
Could be a big chest that opens up and
that's right.
bites your hand off or whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing about this movie, great characters.
Agreed.
Keith David, Wilford Brimley, TK Carter just roller skating about. Kurt Russell, who I do want to talk about. But what I like about this group...
Oh, you want to talk about the main guy?
Yeah, I
You want to talk
will.
about the main guy in the movie?
I will.
I mean, that being said, though, you know, he's the main guy, but there's plenty of space for everybody else, you know?
Totally.
There are scenes where he's just off doing the
He's
stuff.
wearing a big hat and he's off in the world.
He's a man so cool he can even look good in that hat.
Yeah.
That stupid hat that he's wearing the wrong way. He's wearing the wrong, right?
Yeah.
He's wearing it sideways.
Kurt Russell didn't even like it, but he's like, no, I get it. Works for the character, but I hate this hat.
Right.
What I like about all of these guys are they're very intelligent. They're scientists for the most part, and they catch on immediately what is happening, but they're kind of like, but we're still fucked, you know?
Sure.
Like, they're not puzzling the whole thing out the entire time. They're like, oh, it's like a shape-shifting creature from space or whatever. All
They
right.
can become a bunch of different guys.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's really cool.
I mean, they're all pretty smart, but I mean, on the scale of smart, Kurt Russell is still the guy who is testing the blood while holding it.
Yeah.
Even after it explodes.
Yeah.
Even after one of them explodes, he's like, still hold on to it, I reckon.
It worked out fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
He's figuring it out, Mason.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of backstory to all of them, but the Kurt Russell character in particular, McCready.
Oh, you're going to talk about McCready now?
Yes, we're going to talk about. We don't have to. I mean, I can talk about it.
I'd
You don't have to talk. I can talk at you. What would
Okay,
you prefer?
terrific. Let's see how this goes. You
Okay,
start by
cool.
talking at me, and then maybe I'll interrupt.
So a normal video.
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently he's a Vietnam vet and he's suffering from PTSD, which explains a lot about him. He talks about how he's a light sleeper, like he's very easily kind of spooked, but he's not.
He hates playing chess wizard or whatever.
Well, that is like that's an allegory for how he wins in the end.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because, you know, it's
Yeah,
like
makes
he's
sense.
in an impossible situation, so he just flips the board.
So,
You know,
it's
and
true in
he'll,
a way.
and he'll destroy himself with it at the same time.
Yeah.
But-
I mean, I would like to, you know, maybe a sidequel, another movie.
Yeah.
That
Well, you'd like another movie.
The-
Well, you're going to love next week's episode,
no, I
Mason.
want a movie. I want a movie which is the adventures of the chess wizard delivery guy.
Oh,
Because yes,
okay.
they have to bring in another, another
would.
chess wizard.
Yeah,
machine,
yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Or the woman who records the voice lines for the chess wizard.
That's John Carpenter's wife, actually.
Oh, Mrs. John Carpenter.
That's right.
Johnette Carpenter.
That's right.
Wow.
But I love that character. I love the way he takes charge, but is clearly very paranoid the entire time. Like, he's not giving anybody an inch. He shoots a guy in this who's not the thing.
Yeah, he's a murderer.
He's just a murderer.
And that's what you like about people when they're murderers.
I do like that, yeah.
I do like the fact that he's the guy who's he's that, you know, he's that reluctant hero. He had to step up. He didn't want to do this.
No, he didn't want to do it.
Yeah, he'd rather be playing chess wizard.
Well,
and drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Well, until he destroyed his computer.
Yes.
So here's some names that were put up before Kurt Russell,
Okay.
who was like the last person to be cast. They had already started filming. So screenwriter Bill Lancaster, he wrote it with Harrison Ford or Clint Eastwood in mind,
That could work.
both of which turned it down. Nick Nolte was also the top choice, who turned it down. Get out here, the thing.
What are you saying?
Which one of you is the thing?
Yeah.
Is it me?
Or is it Gary Busey? Which one of us is the thing?
He's talking to a mirror. You Gary Busey? Get over here. You got a bad attitude. Jeff Bridges turned it down. I like that.
That's good too.
Tom Berenger, Christopher Walken, Scott Glenn, Roy Schneider, Chris Christopherson, R.I.P. Sam Shepard, Jack Thompson, Australia's own.
He was in Broken Arrow.
Clee Glass, Tom Atkins, and Don Johnson.
Okay, all right.
Of course, Kurt Russell had worked with John Carpenter on Escape from New York.
That's true.
Just prior to this, so...
And he was also, he was on that note that Walt Disney wrote.
The last thing that Walt Disney ever wrote, and this is true, are the words Kurt Douglas.
Kurt Russell.
and he scratched that out.
Okay, sure.
And then he wrote...
Michael Douglas.
Michael Douglas. And he went,
Michael Keaton. And he scratched that out. And he wrote Michael Douglas again. And then he wrote Kurt Russell.
That's right.
And people were like, what did he mean? And when he said Michael Keaton, did he mean the guy from Batman whose real name is Michael Douglas? And then he had to change it because Michael Douglas already was a guy?
It's a Hollywood mystery.
Hollywood mystery, isn't
But that is true. That is the last thing that he wrote, which is pretty strange. But he also, Kurt Russell was like a child actor, so it makes sense that there was...
It was probably in a Disney movie about a horse.
Exactly. A horse that lives on a farm, and at the end you got to shoot the horse or whatever. So Rob Bottin did most of the special effects for this. There are a couple of exceptions. He
didn't do the thing. He didn't do any of the things.
No, he did most of the thing, Mason.
Oh, okay, right.
What other special effects are there?
Chess Wizard.
Chess Wizard. He was 22 when he did this. God.
And he did a bunch of... He's been mentioned on this video series before. He's been in a bunch of stuff, and then he sort of disappeared a few years ago. I mean, he retired. I don't think he disappeared.
I think he fell into a well, didn't he?
Wow.
He did The Howling. He did Legend. He did The Fog. He did Total Recall.
Those are all good.
He did RoboCop 2.
That's right.
God, he's killing it. Anyway, so he burnt himself out doing this because he slept at the studio for like a year putting this all together. So at the end of this, he ended up in hospital, suffering from exhaustion, double pneumonia, and a bleeding stomach ulcer.
Double pneumonia?
Yeah, but the movie's really good.
All worth it then, as far as I'm concerned. As someone who suffered none of those, worth it.
I agree.
Also, he's 6'5".
Well, that's too tall. Knock it off.
They were probably like, can we put you in a big weird suit and you could be the thing? He's like, come on, guys.
Let me do special effects for a year instead. We'll see if that works. It was his idea that the thing is this kind of ever-changing, amorphous kind of creature that has no true form. So he brought that to John Carpenter. Because John Carpenter very much didn't want to do like a man in a suit kind of thing. Right. That, even though he liked the film Alien, his criticism of that was that at the end of the day, it's still a man in a suit.
That's true.
And so the idea behind the etymology of this creature and the design, all of that is Rob Bottin.
All right.
But Stan Winston stepped in to help with a couple of things. He's uncredited, but he is kind of thanked at the end. The dog face splitting in half.
Yeah.
That's a Stan Winston special. That's a good one. The skull fucking falls off.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Horrifying.
Who did the man's head falls off the operating table and then it grows spider legs. And
okay, let's talk about that. There's a CPR sequence in this, and you might remember this, Mason, but there's a moment...
I just saw it.
No, listen, there's a moment, right, where the guy goes to give the guy CPR, and then his stomach opens, and then he bites the guy's arms off. Do you remember that? And then he goes, ah! And he's like, and his blood spraying everywhere, and he's running around. And then a giant kind of head pops out of like the middle of his body, but at the same time...
It's got two heads all of a sudden.
Yeah. But then his other head, like his real head, like slops off the table, and it lands on the ground, then a tongue lashes around a chair, and it drags itself along, and then spider legs comes out, and it crawls, and then they light it all on fire. Do you remember that moment?
I do remember that, actually. Even if I hadn't seen it earlier today to do this video, I would still have remembered it from the previous time that I saw this movie, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a thing one easily forgets.
That is true.
But it is a thing.
Exactly. And it's sequences like this that are the reason why people still remember this movie, and it gained a following over the decades. Look, we could get into specifically how they did a bunch of this stuff, but what I
Probably
find...
special effects.
Yeah, it's special effects, a lot of it for the most part.
Yeah.
But for the moment where their hands are bitten off, they got a double amputee who lost his arms in an industrial accident, put fake arms on him. The bones are made of wax, and the rest is made of like gelatin.
Oh, and then they actually chomped him.
Then they actually chomped him, yeah. Wow. And that's like a hydraulic press chomping thing, which is also how the guy lost his arms.
Damn.
In real life. And it looks incredible, Mason. You know what I like about this movie as well?
What do you like about
Particularly the thing, the element, the thing, the creature in this. It makes sense how it works, but they don't explain it.
Okay.
There's just enough lore where if you added any more or less, you would have too many questions, or it would tip over into something else where it's like, well, how does that work and whatever.
Okay,
there is the perfect amount of information that is given to you, not even necessarily through exposition, but by just like watching it do things,
Okay.
which I think is perfect. And again, like as we talked about, there's a whole lot of questions here that we don't know, like, is this a collective consciousness? Are they all separate from each other? What was it even trying to do?
Was it just a regular guy in a suit?
What do you think it was?
Maybe we'll have a sequel or a prequel that'll reveal.
We might have.
It was just a regular. It was just a big, tall, really pale guy, a bald guy in a suit, and it wasn't actually scary at all.
I think also like it's trying to survive, and there's the idea in
That's
this.
very noble.
Yeah, I think so. There's the idea that if it gets out, that it's going to ruin the world. But was it just trying to go home? We don't really know. It seems to have sinister motivations, but are those survival instincts?
Great point.
It's intelligent because it can mimic somebody perfectly, but like to what extent? I just find the whole thing really fascinating, and we'll delve into it more next week, Mason. But we've got some things we've got to talk about here, Mason. We're not done yet. I know you're getting up to leave.
I am.
But don't do it, Mason.
I've said what I need to say about Frankenstein's dad, and so I can leave.
That was good, Mason. Anyway, you know what it's time for, though?
What's the time for?
It's time for Trivia Thing.
Yeah!
1982. This is the trivia section of the show where we go, you got some information for me, James? You got some facts?
Oh, James, you got some...
I do actually, yes. Drew Struzan's iconic poster for this, you know the one.
He's the Star Wars guy.
He's a Star Wars
But
guy.
it's the one with there's a man and he's standing and there's the energy
The
coming
face
out of his
or
head.
whatever.
Or maybe it's light.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe it's God.
Maybe it's the train coming out of his face.
Maybe it's the famous train face man from
From what?
from the scene in
What
the
scene?
movie.
Train face man?
Yeah.
I don't know.
At the end of the movie, it's just him. It's just Kurt Russell and Keith David at the end, and they're like, "Oh damn, we've defeated the thing. Now we have to fight the train face man."
Oh yeah, I
You know,
forgot
at the
that
end?
bit. Yeah, no, you're
And
right.
they go, "Here we go again."
Everybody go again.
Burp, burp, you know. Sorry, you were saying about this poster.
No, I've run out of steam. It's like a train-faced man.
Whoa.
So yeah, John Carpenter, though, even though this poster is iconic, he hates that poster.
Interesting.
Or he did. He said it reduced the movie to the idea of a man in a suit,
Oh, yeah.
which it isn't.
No.
But
Except for the train face man at the end.
exactly, that's good. That's a good
Yeah.
moment. So
It's kind of a spoiler too for the end.
It is a
isn't
bit
Yeah.
actually, isn't it? We should spoil the ending, and we should give our own thoughts on what we think is happening.
Okay,
Mason. We'll
sure,
talk
sure,
about
sure,
it.
sure.
The computer in this estimates that once the organism reaches civilization, everyone will be wiped out in 27,000 hours. So that's apparently 1,125 days or 3 years and 1 month.
Wow.
Plenty of time.
That's 2.7 Malcolm Gladwell's. Crook bloke, look it up.
Mason, he told me the economy is special and it makes athletes or something, doesn't it?
Yep.
Isn't that true?
I mean, he's not wrong there.
Baseball.
Yep.
You just got to look at the numbers.
I do. That's what he taught me. Anyway, how much time is that? Did you say?
3 years, 1 month.
Okay, that's plenty of time.
That's plenty.
We get stole by then.
Get your affairs in order.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You know?
You'd still have to go to work.
Oh, yeah, you would, wouldn't you? God, that's the most unrealistic thing about most sci-fi movies. It's like, oh, aliens are invading, and it's like, let's all band together and we'll all form a ragtag militia or whatever. No, you'd still have to go to work.
I want to go to brunch,
Yeah,
among it all.
exactly.
Who's going to get me my brunch food?
Not
Me?
the aliens.
Yeah, well, it's true, yeah. There was a go motion sequence from this movie in the final battle that was mostly removed. There's a little bit in there.
Explain what go motion is.
It's like stop motion, but it's a bit slicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like a little RoboCop style.
Yeah,
In
exactly.
209 is a little bit of go motion. I think.
Exactly. So they did the whole sequence. They replicated the thing creature at the end as it pops out, the Wilfred Brimley one.
Mm-hmm.
They recreated the whole set in miniature, and John Carpenter just went, nah. Anyway, here it is. It's here if you want to have a look at it. But
Maybe you enjoy it, but maybe you're going to pull a John Carpenter on it and just go, nah.
I like it. I think it wouldn't have been out of place in this movie. Also, do you know about the alternate ending for this?
No.
First of all, let's talk about the ending.
Okay.
So at the end, Keith David and Kurt Russell.
2 guys left.
There's 2 left.
They're
We don't.
probably not the thing,
No, we don't know.
but maybe they're the thing. They
No.
don't even know. Maybe they're both the thing.
They could be.
Maybe at the end, maybe it cuts and then they go, hang on, are you the thing? I'm also the thing.
I'm the thing.
Thing bros.
And they mush together.
Yeah, that's right.
So Keith David rolls in and he's like, "Man, I also had something happen to me.
Yeah.
I also defeated the thing probably in
Yeah,
another
yeah,
room."
yeah. Yeah, you didn't see it though.
And Kurt Russell had just defeated the thing, or so he thinks. And they sit down
So he
together.
thinks.
So he thinks. And the idea is that they're gonna die in the snow and just kind of wait to see what happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Neither of them seem compelled to leave because the safest thing to do is to stay and keep an eye on each other and make sure
true.
neither of them are the thing. And the movie ends.
Yeah.
I think they're both blokes, but there are multiple theories. There's theories that the Keith David character, he's drinking. Well, I can't remember which way this works, but it's actually like kerosene, and it's to one tricks the other.
I think Kurt Russell offers him a drink, and it's like in theory. Some people have said, he's got kerosene in that, and if Keith David would have drank that and not noticed, then he's the thing.
Yeah.
But you'd put that in the movie, I reckon.
Put that in the movie, I reckon. Yeah, exactly. There are sequels to this that kind of confirm what happened here. But there is an alternate ending that was filmed but ultimately discarded because it didn't test well, but neither did the original ending, so they just went with the original one.
Yeah, right.
Where Kurt Russell is rescued and he's sitting in an office and he gets a blood test, and the blood test says, "You're not the thing." And he goes, "Great.
That's sick as hell.
I love that for me." Because, again, like, you don't know if you're the thing. Maybe he is.
Yeah.
Maybe they all are, and it's just a bunch of things shooting each other, not realizing they're all the thing.
McCready, I have good news and bad news. You're not the thing, but you're pregnant. Here we go again.
With the thing. And it's a bad sperm.
That's right.
So the box office for this on a budget of $15 million, which was a lot for a horror film, but it was also in the era of, because off the back of Alien, they were looking for kind of, let's put a bit of money into these.
Yes.
So that there's a few of these got a pretty good run. So with $15 million, it made 19.9 in the US and some amount of money the world over.
Okay, sure.
So it probably didn't break even initially. And again, it was not well received at all. So Christian Nyby, who was the director of the original The Thing from Another World, he didn't like this version at all.
Where's the Frankenstein guy, he said.
Yeah. We kerosened a man. Why didn't you? He said, if you want blood, go to the slaughterhouse. All in all, it's a terrific commercial for J&B Scotch. So there you go. And John Carpenter was like, that sucks. I thought this was good. And it is John Carpenter.
Yeah.
Don't listen to this guy. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He made an inferior version of this concept.
That's right.
To the one you did.
Yeah, he's jelly.
Yeah, he's totes jelly.
But not in a fun way like The Thing. Just like a man.
Just like a man. So to talk sequels for this, the Sci-Fi Channel, they plan to make a 4-hour miniseries in 2003.
You said miniseries with such disdain there.
Well, I'm thinking about a 2003 sci-fi sequel miniseries to The Thing, Mason.
No blood.
No. So it's set 23 years later. They discover the frozen bodies of McCready and Childs, which confirms that they were not the things, I guess.
Or they were.
Whatever. But there is also a direct sequel comic. There's a bunch of comics, but the direct sequel is The Thing from Another World, Climate of Fear.
Okay.
Which came out in 1992. And there has been kind of, and we'll talk about this more next week, but there's been talk of like, is this ever going to get a sequel? Maybe.
Maybe a modern day sexy reboot.
Oh my God.
TikTok teens.
Whoa. How's that work?
I don't know.
Yeah. Figure it out.
Right. Oh my God, The Thing's coming. Well, we never leave our houses, so it's probably not an issue, really.
Gonna get into our phones? No. It can't do inorganic materials. But of course, sure, it didn't get a sequel series, but it did, of course, get a prequel in 2011.
That's right.
Which we're going to come back and talk about next week. I haven't seen this since the theaters, and I'm very curious to see how it holds up.
Same, yeah. I remember being all right.
I remember being all right.
It's all right, yeah.
There's a special effects thing that we will get into, which is a whole controversy, but yeah.
Should we talk about the video game as well?
Well, I was going to save that for next week. We can do that now.
No, let's do it next week.
Let's do it next week. Let's get out of here.
Next week.
Yeah. Anyways, if you do want to see that video early, you can actually do so at bigsandwich.co. That's like our private Patreon where videos always go up there early. But in addition to that, we do movie commentaries, we do video game let's plays, we do bonus podcasts.
That's right.
We also have a podcast called The Weekly Planet where we talk movies and comics and TV shows. That comes out there early on Sunday as opposed to Monday. Of course, we are looking at The Thing movies.
Oh, yes?
Is because we're coming up on the spookiest time of year. And I'm not just talking about tax time. It is the Halloween season, Mason.
That's correct.
Does that frighten you?
No.
Okay. Because you don't believe in like ghouls and shit.
Yeah. I mean, I believe in hooligans.
Yeah, okay.
And sometimes hooligans are out. I don't
yeah,
like
they
that.
certainly are, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Oh, and people should know that Ben has returned to edit this video.
Whoa.
Him and Lawrence are going week on, week off. And you know it's Ben because look at this. Did you see that amazing editing technique, Mason?
Oh, no.
What'd you think?
I was probably pretty great. Wouldn't shock me if he charged more for that, honestly, and he should.
If you're putting your own creative spirit, I don't know. I didn't ask for it.
I mean, he needed a green screen to do it, so you probably had to buy that.
I don't know if he bought it. That's up to him. If he had a green screen and he chose to do that, that's up to him.
He probably had to crunch for that thing that
Nobody's
he did.
crunching.
All right.
What are you doing?
Okay.
Anyways, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Ben, we're so happy that you came back.
And welcome back, Ben.
And we'll see you all in the next one.
How bad were those Norwegians?
Yeah, well, we're going to...
Terrible shots,
I know. Learn to shoot a dog.
Or we learn to yell out, the dog's an alien. You know? That's the language we all understand.
Exactly.
The international language of that dog's an alien.
Yeah.
You should shoot it too.
Jurgen Blurgen, the dog's an alien.
Exactly.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right.
Grab that jammer, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.